and welcome to this special broadcast. A roundtable discussion that is celebrating business and trade, investment and innovation, as well as a cultural exchange relationship between China and Malaysia. A celebration of 50 years of friendship. I'm Jessie Chahel from Bernama TV.
I'm Tang Bo from CGTN. Today we have an esteemed and distinguished panel of guests representing both countries, and we will explore the profound impact of trade, economy, education, and culture.
Joining us today are YB Anthony Loke, Minister of Transport of Malaysia, and Mr. Lin She Kwang, Minister Councillor from the Embassy of the People's Republic of China.
And we also have Datu Abdul Majid Ahmad Khan, President of Malaysia-China Friendship Association, and Datu Ong Yi Peng, Deputy President of the Associated Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia.
Perhaps we'll take our first question to YB. Thanks for joining us today, of course, with your busy schedule. But it is such an important celebration, 50 years of diplomatic relations between Malaysia and China, YB. What do you believe are some of the key factors that have contributed to the strength and resilience of this partnership?
Well, I think the trust and the confidence between the two countries have been built over the years. Malaysia was one of the first Southeast Asian countries to establish diplomatic ties with People's Republic of China in 1974. And I think over the years we have had many kind of cooperation, be it in economy, trade, and most recent, of course, under the Belt and Road Initiative. We have many projects together, and we are cooperating on many fronts, especially on infrastructure project. But I think the more important part is that we have a strong cultural ties over the years. You know, the Chinese community in Malaysia have been here for a few hundred years. So I think we have that exchanges over the years, and that have made that relationship even more special.
And the second question for Mr. Ling, that how do you see cultural exchanges between Malaysia and China contributing to deeper understanding and cooperation?
Yes, indeed. Cultural exchanges have contributed a lot to our bilateral relations. I think talking about this subject, we have to remind us most of the time the 5 voyages of Admiral Zheng He to the Western Ocean, namely the Indian Ocean. But more than that, we can see from Chinese historical records that our cultural exchanges dated back to 2,000 years ago. So since 2,000 years ago until today, our cultural exchanges has remained very frequent and very profound and deep. It serves a very fundamental foundation for our two peoples to communicate and cooperate.
And for Datu On, what initiatives do you think are necessary to further enhance educational cooperation between the two countries, particularly in the areas such as technology and innovation?
Okay. Thank you. I think Malaysia's really lack of what do you call that, talent in the AI or modern farming, etc. So the modern technology. So for us, I feel that if our government can allow more graduates or talent from China to work in here, I think when they are here, they'll be able to have more technology transfer, knowledge transfer, and that will definitely help to enhance, you know, the Malaysia's technology to another level. And also I think the students, you know, there is now a lot of Malaysians studying in China, but of course we hope that they will come back after they finish their study. But I understand that some of the courses are not recognized by Malaysia government. So if our government can, depending on sectors, focus on the important sectors that we want, recognize their certificates or the degree, that will encourage them to come back. On another note, I think there's also a lot of Chinese, even foreigners studying in Malaysia in our universities. And if we can allow them, after finish their study, to work, then we will have more supply of talent in that field.
I hear what you're saying. Basically, there's so much space that we still have and still can explore in terms of the exchange and sharing. With your extensive experience in international relations, also having served as Malaysia's ambassador to China, what is your, how do you see the significance of this 50 years of friendship and business relationship?
I'd like to highlight two significance. First, over the last 50 years, both Malaysia and China have managed to nurture the relationship. In fact, in 1974, we started from a low base. Today, our relationship is full-blown, robust, and very dynamic. And also added factor is that both of us have been able to deepen trust. It's very important, and respect. In fact, with this trust, that both countries have been able to expand bilateral cooperation in various sectors. Almost all sectors, from politics, diplomacy, cultural, education, transport, Then secondly, for Malaysia, this relationship with China allowed us to reset our foreign policy towards non-alignment. Because before that, you know that we are pro-West. So it's a very significant step, and that through this relationship, we have been able also to recognize the importance of China in international relations. Actually, from day one, we have always advocated that China has a legitimate interest and role to play in international affairs, and that bilaterally, we recognize that China, being a close neighbor and having a long civilization, are actually very important to Malaysia.
And given the current geopolitical situation, and how do you think that both countries, especially the economic relations of the two countries, can jointly address those challenges? For example, the inflation and protectionism. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, Malaysia is actually quite experienced in handling relationship with all countries. We started opening our doors in 1970s, where we have foreign investment from Japan, from Europe, and later now we have China. So technically, we welcome all countries, and we think that we can derive benefit from the strength of each of the countries. And lately, with China's wealth, with China's export of technology and capital, we have benefited. In fact, I think China has emerged the fifth largest manufacturer, investor in terms of the manufacturing sector, and now we hope to gain from China in terms of your emerging technologies. You are quite good in digitalization, in terms of EV, in terms of automation. These are the areas that we very much welcome and could learn from China.
YB, what other opportunities or new opportunities do you foresee for the next 50 years?
There are a lot of, I think, opportunities arising from our integration in terms of economy. I think we have been very close in terms of our trade, but more so because we are having a lot of collaboration in terms of infrastructure projects, such as right now we are building the East Coast Rail Link by the Chinese company in Malaysia. And I think over time, we do not want just this relationship to be just what they call it, infrastructure, but it can lead to more industrialization, because the infrastructure projects can lead to more development into other industries. Because when you have connectivity, you have transportation network, then a lot of industries can be located throughout the entire corridor. And what makes this particular line important is that it links between our major port in Pak Klang to our hinterland. So along the line, there are a lot of area that we can corroborate in terms of building industrialization.
And follow up, this is my second time visiting Malaysia, and I have seen an increasing number of EVs on the street in KL, in Kuala Lumpur. So many of the EV are from the Chinese companies. So do you think it is going to be a new area, a new opportunities for the two countries to cooperate in the future? Well,
we are already cooperating in terms of automobile industry. Geely, of course, has a strong presence in Malaysia. And of course, the trend moving forward will be the adoption of EV, which the government is highly recognized and fully supportive of the development of EV. That's why we have built up the framework in terms of supporting the growth of EV. We are encouraging more charging stations throughout the country, and we have many guidelines for the adoption of EV, so that the take-up rate of EV will increase over time. And you are right. I think the Chinese manufacturers are very, very competitive. Once they bring in their cars here, I think, of course, very competitive in terms of pricing, in terms of technology. But more than that, what we want is that there's more collaboration in terms of the assembly plant and bringing the factory here in Malaysia to produce EV, not only for Malaysian market, but also for the larger ASEAN market.
Mr. Lin, and how do you add on to that?
Well, I think I quite agree with YB, saying that the infrastructure has played a very important leading role in boosting the economic development of the country. Like the ECRL, it will yield benefits and in many fields, not only facilitate the flow of people and of commodities, but it will link the less developed northern and western states to the most developed Klang Valley area. So it will yield comprehensive effects and benefits for the country. And for the cooperation in EV, I think Gili has proposed a very important, great project, the AHTV. And it's automobile high-tech valley. They are proposing to build a cluster of supply chain of EVs and high-tech automobile industries in the Tanjung Maling area. I think it will further help Malaysia to take a position in the EV field, in the high-tech automobile construction building in the Southeast Asia.
Next, we'll explore the areas of transport, trade and economic landscape between China and Malaysia, all coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
"50 years is a significant milestone, marking a period of growth and friendship between China and Malaysia. As we celebrate this achievement, let it be a stepping stone to many more decades of prosperity and harmony between our nations. May this anniversary signify not just a milestone, but a beginning of even stronger cooperation in communication and digital realms, enriching the lives of our people and fostering peace and stability in our region. Let us strive to deepen our cultural understanding through more cooperation, enabling our peoples to learn and appreciate each other's rich heritage and traditions. Here's to the next 50 years of friendship, cooperation, and mutual prosperity between China and Malaysia."
Welcome back. You're watching the Roundtable discussion commemorating the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between China and Malaysia.
We now take a closer look at transportation, trade and economy. YB, as the Transport Minister of Malaysia, what are your thoughts on the role that China plays in terms of enhancing our transport infrastructure, of course, this time in the context of the BRI?
Well, the Belt and Road Initiative has provided a platform and an option for our government to develop infrastructure projects, mega infrastructure projects. Of course, BRI comes with the Chinese expertise in terms of construction, but also it comes with the financing support so that projects can take off and can be developed over time. Malaysia, of course, has adopted the BRI, and as I mentioned, the East Coast Rail Link is one of the key projects under the Belt and Road Initiative, but there are other projects as well. But what is more important in terms of BRI is that it's not just about completing a project, but connecting the dot and integrating it with the neighboring countries and eventually to China. For example, our rail link in Malaysia, of course, there's a potential to connect and to have more integration with the Asian railway network. What we hope to see is that one day, and in fact, it can be realized that we can have a pan-Asian railway network connecting Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, and to China, through Kunming. So if that can happen, then more trade can happen within the region, within the few countries, and it gave another option in terms of a transportation network. So the infrastructure are the puzzle that we have to we have to put together.
Right.
So the moment we join the dots together, and then you have a strong network. So that will be eventually a supporting role in terms of economic development.
And how is the network building going on right now?
Well, as far as Malaysia is concerned, we are in the process of building the rail link, and it will take another 2 years to complete, 2 to 3 years to complete. We are also having discussion with Thailand, hopefully that we can have more integration with Thailand. Of course, there is existing railway network. If we can facilitate in terms of connecting and more integration in terms of custom clearance and all that, I'm sure we can do better. But what is important is that the Chinese support and through Belt and Road Initiative with the might of China in terms of financial capacity and their technological know-how, it can help in terms of building the missing link. And whenever there is some missing dot, and China can come in and also can provide that infrastructure support.
That's right, solving these missing links and bridging the gap for 50 years of a unwavering friendship between Malaysia and China. This is a celebration, definitely a milestone, Bo. And of course, it's good to have you here all the way from China as well. And with this interaction, we hope that we have another 50 years, 500 years of a strong relationship. I come back to business and economics. What are some of your insights in terms of looking at how some of this has really enhanced the way Malaysia and China do business, Dato?
I think over the years, with the Belt and Road Initiative, we see a lot of infrastructure development in this country, definitely. In the early days, is a lot of infrastructure project, but now we see more of the private companies, the medium-sized company that have come to Malaysia to set up factories. You know, the interactions between the two countries, whether it's investment, business to business, government to government, people to people, you can see that there is a lot of development. And we've actually with the visa-free that's announced end of last year, suddenly we see a surge of the Chinese people coming to Malaysia for tour, for investment opportunities, for setting up of JVs across almost everything, you know.
And there has been reports saying that the free visa deal that China made with ASEAN countries, of course, including Malaysia, has been a catalyst or boost for trade and investments. So, Mr. Lin, how do you look into that?
Yeah, definitely the visa exemption for the two countries has contributed a lot to the people flow of the two countries. Definitely, it will continue to yield effects in terms of boosting the trade and investment between the two countries. According to the figure that we have today, ever since this visa exemption policy was adopted since December last year, for every month the Chinese tourists coming to Malaysia has been over 270,000. So in future, of course, it will continue to grow the number, I believe, because for now, every week we have 350 flights connecting the two countries, different cities. So it will continue to yield effects in terms of facilitating the trade and investment between the two countries.
My first visit, sorry to interrupt, my first visit in Malaysia last September, it took a while to get the visa, but now it's such an easy and convenient work to do. Just grab your bag and come, and that's very convenient.
We'll hope to see more of you here then,
yes,
Bo. We were talking a little bit about, making this entire process across sectors a smooth sailing one, but it is crucial that every stone is left unturned, but sometimes it's not that straightforward. How do you see, or how do you look at how we can address some of these issues in terms of if there was any sort of non-seeing eye to eye? How do we solve that in a diplomatic relations or international relations perspective?
I think first we have to learn from our past lessons. In the last 50 years, actually, a lot of lessons to be learned in terms of solving, increasing relationship with the Chinese. So I think the first thing we should look at the mechanism that we have now. I think bilateral, we have a lot of committees, we have two bilateral sessions, but to me, it's a bit weak now. I think for Malaysian government, we need to upgrade. Maybe we could have actually a committee headed by the Deputy Prime Minister, where he can coordinate the whole agencies, the whole ministry. Because now we have actually a sectorial. Because as relationship gets more complex, a lot of going on between the two, we need a higher level of decision making. That will benefit us. Because if you look around ASEAN region, most of the committee with China are headed by a very senior minister or at a higher level. So that we, Malaysia, can get more benefit and we can actually, push through some of our requests to our Chinese friends.
I think to address that questions, the trust and confidence between leaders are very important. And right now we are enjoying a very strong bond between the top leaders of both countries. I think Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim, as our 10th Prime Minister, has visited China twice in a short 18 months. And he has established a very, very good relationship with both the President Xi and also Premier Li.
Right. I mean, that is, of course, just an indication of the extent in terms of what else can be explored in terms of sectors. You talk about trade, business, economics, and friendship, and also cultural exchange. Bo, there's so much happening, especially in this robust times. YB, very quickly, how do you think Malaysia can further use our strategic location within Southeast Asia to enhance our role as a logistics hub?
Well, I think we have already put in place a lot of infrastructure projects. As I mentioned, we are continuing to build our ports. Our ports are strategically located in the Straits of Malacca. We have to build our rail network so that we have a big hinterland to support the ports. To make Malaysia as a logistic hub, a logistic center, we need space, we need warehouses, we need a support system. And all those are being planned and being executed, and we welcome the role of the private sector to support this. And logistics, as you rightly pointed out, is a very big industry, and Malaysia is strategically located, be it our ports, be it our airports, and we are having more collaboration. And in fact, we will continue to build more collaboration with our Chinese counterpart. For sure, in terms of aviation, we are looking for KLIA to have a joint collaboration with one of the airports in China in terms of logistics support. So Malaysia aims to be the hub for this region. So I think logistics definitely will play a very important role.
Okay, following up, let's go back a little bit to the railway links that Mr. Ling, how do you envision the East Coast Railway Link that has been constructed by the Chinese company, and how would contribute to the economic development of Malaysia's eastern region?
I think it will contribute to the economic development of Malaysia and the social development of Malaysia in many ways. As YB has just pointed out, that this infrastructure construction serves as a very basic foundation for facilitating trade and people flow. I know that for now, the ECRL has recruited more than 5,000 local workers, and these workers will grow to be the skilled workers, and they know the technology and techniques how to build the railway. And there are already more than 3,000 local enterprises who collaborated with the CCCC of China to build this road, either as designers or consultant or subcontractors of the construction or providers of construction materials. So I have seen the think tanks say that upon completion, the ECRL will contribute to up to 2.7% to Malaysia's economic development. And 20 years after its completion, its contribution to Malaysia's economic growth will reach 4.6%. And Malaysia's east coast, there are some less developed states. By linking those states to the economically developed Klang Valley, definitely those states will see faster development, and it will also help the nation building of Malaysia.
and looking into a bigger picture, and how do you see projects like this fitting into the broader context of regional connectivity? Not only
Yes.
Malaysia, but also the entire region, ASEAN countries, and
Right, and I think that's a
Thailand.
question for all whoever would like to
Yes.
jump into that as well. That's all.
I'd just like to add on what YB mentioned about the strategic location of Malaysia. I think Malaysia, well, we have done it, but we should do much more in terms of placing Malaysia as important global supply chain, because China will be the fulcrum of the Asian development, and all the linkage is important. And I think our Malaysian government has done well in terms of upgrading ports to have the linkages, railway transportation. I agree. Actually, our focus will be more towards the north, the Pan-Malaysian Railway. Then we can link up to the bigger countries and together with China, the market. To me, that will be an important priority. Anyhow, that was a vision of Malaysia 20 years ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago. So I think almost reached now, because you got the Lao-China Railway.
Right.
It's just a bit more gaps here and there.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a focus. And talking also, you mentioned about how it fits into the connectivity. I think connectivity is important, and that's where I think China can play a role. You have BRI, because BRI is also a connectivity, and as it is now, this northern Malaysia, northward, there is already a connectivity in terms of land transport is there, and then also with the Kuantan port, we have link with southern China that we can further improve. I think this is important because not only Malaysia or China, but we have to look in terms of region.
That's right.
Yeah.
So much more. I'm sure our panelists want to add on as well. It's time for a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more, as well as exploring the education sector, both for China and Malaysia. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching a very special edition of this broadcast, which is to celebrate and observe 50 years, or the 50th anniversary of bilateral relations between Malaysia and China through business and trade, innovation, investment, and even cultural exchange. But now we look closer into the education sector. It was recently that there was a statement that was released in which top officials said that they were confident that the relationship between the two countries, Malaysia and China, would grow to greater heights with a focus on education, especially in TVET. I wanted to open this question as well to all our speakers today. In which ways do you see the Malaysia-China friendship influencing educational exchanges? You spoke a little bit about knowledge transfer and human capital earlier. Perhaps you'd like to get this ball rolling, Dato' Ong.
Well, talking about education, you see, we have Xiamen University in Malaysia. That is the first public university, government university that is outside of China. I think we see that there's a lot of integration, because you have Chinese students and Malaysian students, or in fact the whole region. So I think the educations will definitely, sending more students to China, and Chinese studying in Malaysia will definitely help to improve. It will integrate more to understand each other's culture, and therefore able to make better friends, better decision, investment decision, etc.
Better friends, better decisions.
It will flow through.
That's right.
Over the years.
Earlier you mentioned about recognizing certificates from both sides.
Yes.
And for now, what measures have been taken by the two sides that setting up this mechanism to recognize the certificates from the two countries in educational area?
From the government side, appropriate YP can answer. Yeah.
I think we need to, definitely there will be more government-to-government understanding. There will be a high-level visit this year. I'm sure many memorandum of understanding will be signed to enhance understanding and recognition of both sides. I think one of the key focus right now will be on TVET, and this is something that is the vision of the Malaysian government, to focus more of our education system towards TVET, Okay, because we know that we need to cater to a group of students who probably are not that interested in terms of the academic studies, but in terms of TVET, we want to train them into skill workforce. So strong emphasis are being given into TVET, and we have a strong collaboration and cooperation with China. I think China has offered many opportunities for our students to have TVET training in China, and vice versa. We hope to have more collaboration, and I'm sure there will be more announcement in terms of collaboration to be made in the next few months.
Mr. Lin, would there be any sort of insights into the educational sector in terms of exchange between China and Malaysia?
I think TVET is a very important area that we can really cooperate, since China has a lot of good experiences in pushing forward the TVET education, and we have been very successful in this field. And when pushing forward the mega projects construction, I think there has been a shortage of TVET workers in this field, and we have to work very hard to meet the challenges, the requirements for pushing forward this construction of the big projects. Second, I think it's very important for us to put more stress on the education of STEM. With the fast developing of AI, cloud computing, big data, all those new emerging technologies.
IoT.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very important to do more to emphasize the STEM education.
And Dr. Majid, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I like to emphasize, you see, education is a pillar of people-to-people exchanges. And I think the advantage, has been mentioned by the panelists. What is important now is the language component. That you'll be surprised now, there are many Malays have taken up Mandarin.
And vice versa also.
And also, of course, for Mandarin has been here for a long time. There is an official Confucius Institute at the University of Malaya, and they have trained many government officers to be able to speak Mandarin. And also, in terms of Malay language, when I was there 20 years ago, it's only one institute that teach Bahasa Malaysia. Today, 19 Chinese university has Bahasa Malaysia classes. And I understand that, I think, starting this year, that most of the national school in Malaysia will have Mandarin classes taught by actually Malaysian students who have been sent to China for 5 years to be trained as teachers. And I'm told the last batch, 100 of them, will be coming back soon. So then Mandarin will take quite an important part, even in our national schools. And these people are trained teachers from Beijing, a very original donation.
So that's really a proud moment, YB. How do you see this in terms of, the way it has been employed in terms of putting it through the system in education?
Well, I think when you understand each other's language, definitely it will deepen the understanding of each other, and to pull our people together even more closer. I think it's very important for Malaysians to adopt multilingual, to have the ability to converse in different languages. I think it comes naturally for Malaysians, because many of us are multilingual. I'm sure our brothers and sisters from the Malay community and Indian community will also like to take up Mandarin. And there are increasing trend, a lot of Indian parents and Malay parents sending their children to Chinese primary schools to pick up Mandarin at the early stage. I think that will be something of advantageous to Malaysia, because if we can produce a workforce who are multilingual and who can converse in different languages, definitely is a plus point for our country.
I'm very much impressed by the multilingual environment. I spent a few days here already, and I learned a lot of local language. Selamat
Datang.
Datang. Yeah.
That's
Can
right.
I add on
And
to
please.
YB? Just now, when YB talked about the TVET, settings, our government focus on TVET. I see that in China, a lot of corporate, they have their school on TVET, training the people. Perhaps we can bring some of them to set up in Malaysia. That will help Malaysia's generally, to bring out the TVET.
Yeah, and for the Dadu Majid, and with your background in economics and diplomacy, how do you see education playing a role in enhancing Malaysia-China relations, particularly in fostering mutual understanding?
Yeah, I think basically exchanges of education, we all, as a young student have studied overseas or in other, different environment. I think we gain through knowledge sharing, cultural experience, understanding each other, but also we foster their friendship, because most of these young students will become leaders in their respective field and countries. For example, today in Malaysia, we have our leaders who actually were educated abroad, and their counterpart became kings, prime minister. That provide a good bridge. So that's why we all put quite a lot of emphasis between Malaysia and China. One of the bridges would be education. We hope those Chinese students who have studied here will be the bridge of friendship to come, and also Malaysian students who have studied and stayed in China will create the understanding for the younger generation. So I think since we have already completed 50 years, so the next 50 years has to be played by the young people. So I think it's important that we nurture the friendship, the understanding that we have created to this new group of people through education.
And based on that, what area is, or rather what aspect of education do you feel is still untapped? Is there an area we could further explore that has potential for better exchange, better relationship between China and Malaysia, YB?
The key word right now is AI. There is a strong emphasis by the government, especially by the Prime Minister, who keep on insisting the importance of adopting and learning what is AI all about. And I think this is something which I think the Chinese will have a lot of sharing that they can help and they can share with us. A lot of emphasis of technology and AI being taught in China, and I'm sure this is one area where the Malaysia is really, really interested in.
So not only the language, education, cultural exchange, like cutting-edge technologies exchanges such as AI is.
And you can learn language through AI as well.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Mr. Lin, perhaps you'd like to add on to that as well in terms of the areas that still has much potential for exploration, for example, AI.
Yeah, I quite agree with the field of AI, and at the same time, I think it's very important for Malaysia and China to foster the students with the ability to innovate, because we are Oriental culture circle, and I think it is very important to not only teach them STEM, the knowledge, the static knowledge, but to train them to be able to innovate, to acquire the ability of innovation. That is very important.
And my question opens to all that as advocates for Malaysia-China friendship, how can we encourage students and professionals to pursue educational opportunities that strengthen bilateral cooperation in Bahasa Malaysia and Mandarin?
Well, I think we should encourage more exchanges in terms of students, Malaysian students studying in China, and also Chinese students coming to Malaysia to learn about not only about languages, but I think it's very important that they also learn about the local culture. And I think Malaysia is an important country as far as understanding ASEAN as a whole, because as you mentioned, we are a multicultural country. We have different civilization living peacefully together in this society, and I think this is something which will help in terms of the multicultural understanding among Chinese students, because for China, I mean, most of the Chinese students perhaps live in a more homogeneous society. I mean, you just mix with Chinese or just know about Chinese tradition and culture. But over here in Malaysia, not only you can experience Chinese culture, but you will learn about Malay culture, you'll learn about Indian culture, you'll learn about Kadazan, Iban culture. So it's a melting pot of culture that you can experience. And I think that will be very, very helpful for Chinese students.
And it's based on that foundation and exchange that really binds us, but also creates such a strong bond in that aspect. I like to think of it as a soft power, if you will, that really promotes mutual understanding and respect.
And for the next segment, we touch upon culture and the approach to strengthening the domestic and diplomatic exchange. And don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Today, we mark a significant milestone, 50 years of cooperation between Malaysia and China. As we reflect on the journey that has brought us to this moment, we recognize the power of cooperation and goodwill in fostering friendships. Our nations have worked hand in hand, transcending differences to forge a bond grounded in mutual respect and cooperation. Throughout the decades, our cooperation and collaboration has been our strength. Together, we have navigated challenges, celebrated triumphs, and worked towards common goals. It is this spirit of understanding and goodwill that has propelled us forward, shaping the course of our shared history. The friendship between Malaysia and China is a testament to the belief that we can come together and achieve greatness. Through collaboration and understanding, we have built bridges that span cultures, languages, and tradition. As we look forward to the future, let us affirm our commitment to cooperation and friendship. May the future be filled with great solidarity, prosperity, and goodwill as we continue to build a brighter future for generations to come. Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching this special broadcast celebrating 50 years of friendship and bilateral relations between Malaysia and China. We have a panel of esteemed guests joining us in the studio. But Bo, I must formally and officially welcome you to Malaysia.
Thank you very much.
It's been great hosting with you, and of course we've had some exchanges as well. But it was not too long ago, Bo, that in Malaysia we celebrated Chinese New Year. And I wish you were here at that point of time to show you the typically Malaysian Chinese tradition of tossing the yisang.
Yisang, yes, this is my second time in here, and I heard of yisang and the very special ceremony tradition, and I heard that it was introduced by Mr. Luke's family. So what exactly is that all about, and why is it so important in Malaysia culture?
Well, yisang, it means raw fish. So the tradition of toasting the raw fish together with other ingredients has been introduced as a part of the Chinese New Year celebration. Of course, one of the saying was my grandfather started this tradition and started this business back in Seremban in the 30s or 40s, probably 80 years ago. But whether or not that is really an invention, a local invention, is of course subject to debate. But lately, I visited Foshan in Guangdong, and I found out the tradition of eating this raw fish is very much alive in Foshan as well. And my grandfather, his ancestors' home was from Foshan. So I can see the link there, the cultural heritage, cultural link there. And I suspect that my grandfather, who was born in China, brought this tradition from his hometown to then Malaya and started this tradition. And it became a very, very popular culture in Malaysia right now.
That's amazing. Is it still exactly the same way, like it's still intact in its invention?
Of course, over the years, of course, there are a lot of other changes in terms of more fusion. For example, the type of fish right now has changed. People will probably take salmon fish right now or jellyfish. So even though there are some changes in terms of ingredients, but the tradition is there. So I think what is remarkable is that that tradition, probably from a small village in China, has brought over here to the then Malaya, and right now Malaysia, since independence, we have celebrated this tradition.
That's right.
And we keep about it?
Celebrating, yes.
Yeah.
We'd like to get some of your perspectives as well. Perhaps as a local, how do you see this sort of exchanges really enhancing the bilateral relations with China?
I want to touch actually on other aspect of food, but this more for the people to people. One is actually for China now. We have what is known as, the mee tarik. Langjo mee, it's very popular among local people. It's very cheap. I think about 10 years ago, it's not known here. It's only for us that visit China, we are exposed. But today, it's very common sight. People queue, to get this langjo. And then for the Chinese also, they really know teh tarik. And I was in Xiamen University a couple of times. I see Chinese student. First thing in the morning, it should be teh tarik and roti canai, or they call it sarang burung with 2 eggs thrown in.
Right.
It's common already. So I think it's good. Simple food, but very commonplace that can bind us together.
And what about you, Mr. Lin? What's your favorite Malaysian food? That's making you
definitely is nasi lemak.
I like how on the subject of food, everyone has something to say. But I want to go back to your time as ambassador. What was some of your memorable experiences or something that has really left an impact on you?
See, at that time, China was just developing. So I think, you just cannot imagine how China was then. in terms of standard of living, in terms of what is available until today. So I think China's modernization, development really took us by surprise. Even the Chinese too are surprised. It's too fast, you know. But it's a remarkable achievement for, you know, for Asia. So we are very proud, and it's something that we can learn. Then secondly, I noticed that one of the things that I used to tell our people, Malaysian visitors, business people, telling them China has changed. China is changing. But I think most of them do not believe. They think China is still in the 1970s. They always relate their negative feeling, what happened in China in the 70s, but China was not ready. So I told them there are many opportunities. China is ready to open up. Things are very international. And I think as a result of this, more people are very interested. And this one of the way helping to communicate what's happening in China to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any more personal experience that highlighting the cultural similarities or differences, which can even promote the business interactions between the two countries?
Yeah, of course, the one thing that Malaysian can learn from China, China is hardworking. You can never imagine how hardworking the Chinese are, because practically every couple in China works. Practically they have no time, you know. They can even separate places of work just to get income and all that. And also another one which is quite a cultural difference between Malaysia and China, what I call Chinese speed. China does things very fast. They make decisions fast. They expectation. If they ask for quotation, they want you to give it within 24 hours, not 3 weeks. This is something I think Malaysians need to learn. But of course, it's a different background because China is huge, under pressure, and China is a very competitive society. Maybe Malaysia, with a smaller proportion, we're more relaxed a bit, you know.
Right, so there's a slight difference there in terms of how we look at both countries. Mr. Lim, would you like to set the record straight in terms of China's brand identity and its outlook towards Malaysia?
I think it's very important to talk about the cultural exchanges, similarities between our two countries, because I think if we go deeper, the thing that behind or that at the basic level of the culture is that we all care about our families, care about our friends. We have warmth in our people-to-people relations. This is very important. I think it will definitely become much easier to build friendship and chemistry between our two peoples, and which will definitely facilitate the business and trade between our two countries.
As we conclude this insightful discussion, Bo, it's evident that there is a strong bond between Malaysia and China that transcends geographical borders, but also that one that enriches lives of millions of people and paving the way for a brighter future for all of us. On behalf of our esteemed panelists and of course our entire production crew that has worked so hard behind the scenes, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for joining us and to all our panelists for being here. Thank you very much. I'm Jessie Chahal.
And I'm Tang Bo, and this has been a remarkable exploration on diplomacy, friendship, and enduring relationships between the two countries. Until next time, thank you for watching. Terima kasih.
再见.
Bye.